Good morning, church. It's good to be with you today. And we want to look at First Kings chapter 8 because I was interested in the temple and I was struck by the lack of imagery in it. We remember that God abhors idols. He abhors images of God. And so there's nothing in the temple that would give any kind of indication of what God looked like or an object for people to worship. Even the Ark of the Covenant was there, but it was hidden. People couldn't lay their eyes on it. And so they were just left with this devotion that they had to have. And as Christians, that's still our job today. There's no objects or things that we're allowed to worship. This even got me thinking about the cross at the front of most churches. It's a symbol to remind us of what God did for us. It's empty because we remember his resurrection as well as his crucifixion, the wholeness there. But it must not ever become a thing that we direct our prayers to or towards. It in itself is not an object worthy of worship. I mean, it was an object, of course, even before Jesus came, implement of terror that the Romans had instituted against the populace. And so in itself, it's not a good thing, but it's a reminder for us of what Jesus did, so we put it up. Could a church function just as well with no crosses and no religious symbols at all? Probably, and they might even be closer to God's perfect will than those of us that do put one up. And so it's interesting in Solomon's prayer then when he suggests that it's good wherever they are, whenever they go to war, that they turn towards Jerusalem to pray. And then that sounds very similar when we hear in some faiths today they turn towards, say, Mecca to pray during the day because that's important to them. Yep, Solomon is meaning well at this point, but he misses the mark again in that it turns the temple proper into some kind of symbol of remembrance, unless he's thinking about remembering that God is present with the people. But even so, he's with them everywhere that they were going. And just a little reminder that even the best guys can make an error in theology with the best of intentions. So we go over to Romans chapter 3. We're talking about theology. Here we have one of the primary verses used in evangelism and sharing the gospel, and rightly so. This is a critical verse. There is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands. There is no one who seeks God. We use this in evangelism because it's important to communicate the truth of no one's good enough. You're not earning your way. You're not naturally good. Nobody's going to seek God on their own. It requires God's intervention. And yet somehow in the same time, a human response. And so we have that tension in our lives and in our theologies. But this is a great place to begin or to go to if someone says, well, I think I'm good enough. Open here, have them read Romans 3:10 and say, well, what does that say? Tell me what that means. And then you can begin the discussion and walk them through a process of understanding their sin, which leads to understanding their need for a Savior, and then understanding Jesus as that Savior, and then leading them to be able to confess Him as Lord, repenting of their sins, and turning their lives over to Him is the process that is good to walk down. Well, church, you have a great Wednesday, and I look forward to talking to you soon again.